Customer experience is just a series of little things. It's an endless series because you're always going to find more improvements. But just get started. Start fixing things. Every decision we make through the lens of the customer, and that's when this thing really starts to take off.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the CVO Live. I'm here with Dan. Hello, Dan. Let me tell our audience a few words about yourself. Dan Gingiski is a customer experience expert, keynote speaker, and author. He has a background in marketing and customer experience roles at various companies, including McDonald's, Humana, and Discover. Gingis, you are particularly known for your book, Winning at Social Customer Care, and also the Experience Maker, how to create remarkable experiences that your customers can't wait to share. And I can't wait to making this episode happen together. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today.
Super. So I will start by asking you, why does it matter? So Dan, why does it matter customer experience in today's economy?
It's a great question, and the answer is actually pretty straightforward. In almost every industry, competing on price has become a loser's game. It's a race to the bottom, literally. If I keep bringing my price down and you keep bringing your price down, it's a race to the bottom. So it's a very difficult way to compete. It's also become very, very difficult to compete on product or service because almost everything is commoditized. And people are copying each other, and even some of the most innovative companies in the world now have competitors that kind of look just like them, and it's very difficult to tell their services apart. So if we can't compete on price and we can't compete on product or service, the only thing left is experience. And the best thing about customer experience is that it is generally delivered by your employees as well as your technology. And so because nobody else has your employees, it is by definition, something that can be unique about your business. No one can copy your experience exactly. And so to me, it is really the last true differentiator.
All right. So now it's clear that you're a big advocate on the touch point, right? So whilst we have here all sorts of guests at the CVO Live, we are about customer lifetime value and optimizing the business for it. We are hearing a lot of voices around technology and clustering the customers, focusing and offering better customer experience to the best ones. Where do you stand around this technique?
You know, it's a really interesting dilemma. And I'll give you an example from when I worked at McDonald's. So I worked in the social media area of McDonald's, and typically in social media departments, what we look at is people that have large followings on social media, because that must mean that they have influence, right? And people who have influence are the people that we want to be the nicest to because we want them to talk about us. But what I found when I dug a little bit deeper is that influencers were not necessarily our best customers. Our best customers at McDonald's are people that, believe it or not, come into the restaurant 5+ times a week. And they may not have any social media following, or they might have, 100 followers. And so the reason I share this is because oftentimes we get blind to who is actually our best customer. I would rather have somebody buy from me once a month, but tell all his or her friends about me, than have somebody buy from me 5 times a month and tell nobody about me. That first person is actually going to be more valuable, but if all you do is look at sales revenue, you're going to think that second customer is more valuable. So to kind of get around your question, I do believe that we should value all customers, that every one of our customers is helping us keep the lights on, is helping pay our salaries. There's no reason why any company should not want to talk to one of their customers if the customer wants to talk to them. That all said, it's totally fine to have things like loyalty programs that reward customers for spending more with you and give them additional benefits.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing then is that we can't afford to be selective. But what would happen from a CFO perspective, right? If you over deliver where do you draw the line actually? If you over deliver in terms of customer experience to all of your customers, maybe you can't afford it. So where do you draw the line, or how to draw the line?
Sure. So if you look at most companies and you look at the amount of money that they spend on sales and marketing, and you compare that to the amount of money they spend on their existing customers, it's absolutely laughable. It's multiple times difference. We're spending so much money trying to acquire new customers, but we're not spending hardly anything to keep the ones that we have. So actually, from a CFO perspective, this is potentially a way to save money. And I always talk about how the beauty about customer experience, if you're talking to a CFO or a CEO, they want to hear about the numbers. And the beauty of customer experience is that it helps you on both sides of the profit equation. It helps you with revenue because when you do customer experience right, you get more customers who spend more and stay longer and tell their friends. Those are all revenue drivers. But also when you do customer experience right, you save money because you don't have to spend as much money on customer service, for example. Customer service, after all, is only needed when the customer experience is bad or when it's broken. We also don't have to spend as much money on sales and marketing because our existing customers are staying longer with us and we've got that loyalty. And so our lifetime value goes up. Plus, and this is really the part where I lean into because I was a marketer for so long, is when we teach our customers to talk positively about us, to tell other people about us, whether it's friends, family, colleagues, social media followers, whatever, they help us grow with more customers in a way that is way cheaper than having to do traditional sales or marketing tactics.
I don't want to be the devil's advocate for for sure. I mean, we're on the same page. Basically, I'm about to launch my book around lifetime value and the fact that it's all about focusing on, let's say, customer experience and retaining customer rather than acquiring customers that never come back. What I want to ask you, because basically I'm obsessed about these things, because anyways, we have a saying here in Bucharest, in Romania, that you always attract people like you. It's not to share it to the public, like to translate it into English, but the ones that are like we are attractive to each other. So basically, I'm on the same page, but. And I've made some experiments, but what I'm hearing from CFOs, because we have our technology to measure, track customer experience by employee, by role, by channel, and so on. What I'm hearing is that, and what if the customer experience is not fantastic? This is not, people will continue to buy. How can you demonstrate that if NPS goes down, lifetime value goes down?
Correct. How can you demonstrate that connection?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from the CFOs.
So what I think I'm hearing you say is that if we don't have a good customer experience, we can continue to get lots of customers and continue to grow even without it. Is that what CFOs are saying?
Yeah, or they are not so pissed off. They are not pissed off enough. I don't know. Let's say an NPS of 45, it's good enough. It's like, it's positive. I mean, they look at these benchmarks, which are, I found it pretty stupid. I mean, if your industry average of NPS is 30 because you are in telecom, why shouldn't you have 60 or 70? Why shouldn't you go up? I mean, why should you set the baseline so low? But what I'm hearing is that, can you demonstrate that increasing the NPS by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points has a direct impact in our bottom line?
Yeah, and that is exactly what we have to do, because again, a CFO probably doesn't care about NPS. It's not a metric that they learned in business school or finance class or what have you, right? So it doesn't mean anything by itself. But absolutely, we can tie NPS to spend, because happier customers are generally going to spend more with us. We can tie it to loyalty. So by looking at how long they are a customer with us, which of course leads right into your long-term value equation. And we can tie it, therefore, then, with some math, we can tie it to long-term value. So I have not seen a situation in which NPS is going down and we continue to have more loyal customers. That doesn't seem to be a common occurrence. What I will say is that NPS by itself is not going to prove anything, because NPS is simply telling you how you're doing at a moment in time. It's not telling you why, and it's not telling you what's going to happen next. And so when we lean too hard on only CX metrics and we don't tie them back to financial metrics, that's when we lose the CFO. And so I believe there absolutely is a direct tie, and I've seen it in lots of different industries. I worked for a credit card company in the US called Discover that is one of the smallest credit card companies. You know, you compare it to other issuers like Citibank and American Express and et cetera that are way, way, way bigger. But Discover actually had the best loyalty of any of the credit card companies. Our customers stayed longer. I think it was like an average of 13 or 14 years than any other company. And that is a great metric to track, because if you're doing a good job in following your book and learning how to track long-term value, you know that if I can get a customer to stay an extra year, 2 years, 3 years, that is huge value. And so, and I can tell you that Discover was also a leader in customer satisfaction and in customer experience. That's the thing they decided to compete on because they were so small. There was no way we were going to compete on interest rates. There was no way we were going to compete on rewards because the other companies were just too big. They could spend more money. So we decided to compete on service and experience. And as a result, you see things like loyalty or tenure, which absolutely, once you know the lifetime value or the value of every year that a customer is a client of yours, you can calculate that down to dollars and cents. And that's what the CFO wants to see.
Makes total sense, Dan. And I had an image, while you were speaking about different companies greeting their first time customers, and company A has the customer for 13, 14 years, while company B has it for has the customer for only 1, 2, or 3 years. So this is pure math, and I want to touch into the fact that in your book you touched the idea of data-driven customer experience as a way to make better decisions and understand customer behavior. Basically, we are getting here into the, let's say, into the territory of forecasting and predictive measurement. Tell us a bit about how can you generate a better customer experience through this data-driven approach?
So I like to look at two different pieces. You're probably very familiar with voice of the customer because it's a pretty common theme within customer experience. And even within voice of the customer, there's a quantitative aspect and a qualitative aspect. We've discussed a little bit of the quantitative aspect with NPS. The qualitative aspect is equally important. These are the words that your customers are using to describe their experience with you. And if we're not paying attention to those words, reading them is fine. Even better is actually hearing them. One of the best things I ever did at all the companies I worked for is go into the call center and sit with an agent and listen to customers. Because when you listen to their actual voices, you don't just hear the words, you hear the emotions, you hear how angry they are, or frustrated they are. You hear stories about how long they've been on hold or other types of frustrations. So that's one piece of the puzzle, is we've got this data around the scores that we get for voice of the customer combined with the qualitative. On the other side, I like to look at something called AOC. If voice of the customer is VOC, what AOC is actions of the customer. And this is also things that we can track and look at numerically. So an action of the customer might be how long they spend on your website, how many pages they visit, how many clicks it takes to get to their ultimate destination, how often they open your mobile app. We were able to make direct comparisons between people who were logging into the mobile app multiple times a month and to how much they were spending on the credit card. It was not exactly linear, but it was absolutely a direct correlation. The more people were engaged in the app, the more they spent on their card. And so we've got to look at these actions of the customers, because if we're only looking at the voice of the customer, sometimes, and I think Steve Jobs was famous for saying this, sometimes customers don't know what they want, and so they don't know how to ask for it. And frankly, even if you ask them, hey, would you like red, yellow, or blue? They may tell you blue and then go buy red, right? I mean, just because they tell you they want blue doesn't mean that's the choice they ultimately make. So we have to follow their actions as well and track them in order to make those decisions. When you look at VOC and AOC together, you have this full 360-degree picture of a customer. And then you can grab your super smart analytics team and start making these connections between, oh, if this happens and this happens, or if they say this and they do this, then it leads to more sales, or it leads to more loyalty, or et cetera.
Dan, I'm totally with you, and I love the fact that you've mentioned this audio as being better than reading the words of your customers. In a previous life, when I ran my own e-commerce company, we were basically the main player in online car insurance, and we've got the MTPL where it's like mandatory, and we also had the other insurance, the casco, the premium. And our customer, at some point, we've got 14 girls in our customer service department, to customer support, and we've picked a company to train them and whatever. And at some point, I got into this room, and I was hearing them speaking, and basically, when I noticed that there was a huge gap between what the customer's tone of voice was and our girls, which were very cheerful. So basically, they associated our product with the tax. It's like the government is calling you and say, "Hello, Mr. X, your insurance is expiring, and you need to pay again for something that you don't want." And basically, it was a huge gap, and we've seen that they were always disappointed. And what we decided is to change the attitude of the caller. So they start, "Hello, Mr. X. We know that this is a bummer, it's not a great news. However, we have a great news. We've just found the best insurance for you, the best price, blah, blah, blah." And that increased our NPS instantly. It was like having the empathy and meeting the customer where he is from an emotional point of view.
Absolutely. That's a great story. And I used to tell my team, both at the credit card company, and I worked for insurance as well, except it was health insurance. I used to tell them, nobody wakes up in the morning wanting to talk to their credit card company or their insurance company. Nobody, right? Nobody gets up in the morning and says, "Hey, I'm going to call my insurance company. That ought to be fun." And so if we can start with that understanding, and that involves some empathy, it involves us being honest with, we're in an industry that people kind of love to hate. And, it's a necessary industry, but it is what it is. But that helps to frame then how we react to them, right? And so in a digital space, which is where I spent most of my time, to me, the idea was, how do I get them off the website as fast as possible? Because I know they don't want to be here. No one wants to come to their credit card website or their insurance website and look up something, their benefits or their transactions. They just want to find what they're looking for and then go on about their day. But what you find in those industries is a ton of companies that are throwing up pop-up ads and cross-sells and upsells and trying to get the customer to spend more time there. And I always thought that was completely backwards. That's why I taught my team, we just have to understand and empathize with people that they want to just move on with their day. I think you did the same thing with the call center, which was to say, look, if people are calling, it's probably not for a good, happy reason. And so we at least have to tone it down a little bit. Otherwise, we sound like we're tone deaf. We sound like we're not listening because I've got an angry customer and a super happy agent, and those are incongruent.
Yeah. And Dan, I want to touch on something regarding the employees and training your employees. You are mentioning something in your books that caught my attention, which is that the employees, being the first in line of the customer interaction, they should be empowered to create wow moments. And what you're suggesting is to invest into tools and training to help them excel at these customer interactions, as they are the last in line. Let's say they are the actual emotional touch point between the company and the leadership that makes all these strategies and numbers, and the actual customers, which are paying their bonuses and their trips to Miami or whatever. So tell me about the wow moments, and tell me how can you empower your employees.
Sure. So we're talking about basically two sides of the same coin, which is customer experience and employee experience. And let me give an example to people who are watching or listening that aren't working in a call center. You've probably had a job at some point in your life that you really liked. And when people asked you about your job, your face lit up and you told them about this great company that you were working for, you were doing some really innovative stuff, and you were really enjoying yourself. You've also probably had a job in your career that you didn't like so much. And people ask you about that and you kind of slunch down and you're like, oh, work sucks. I don't like going into work, right? And so you're projecting out to people either, one of two different versions of this company, right? And after all, you're a representative of that company. Now bring it into the call center where you're talking to customers every day. And what I always like to say is it's very easy to ask agents to create a great experience for customers. But if our agents don't know what a great experience looks like, and if they're not experiencing it at work, if they hate their job, there's no way they're going to provide a great experience for customers. So that's why these are two sides of the same coin. And the more that we help to elevate our employees, empower them, give them a great place to work where they're happy and fulfilled and well paid and satisfied, then they can turn around and do that for customers. There's a stat in my book that says that 2/3 of consumers cannot remember the last time that any brand exceeded their expectations, which is both a very scary stat and a very opportunistic one, because I always say, hey, we can be that brand then, right? If no one else is doing it, let's step into that void. But we have to remember that if 2/3 of consumers can't remember the last time a brand exceeded their expectation, that means that 2/3 of our employees can't remember either, because they are consumers. So I always go in with the assumption that my employees don't know what a great experience looks like, because on average, 2/3 of them don't. 2/3 of them can't tell you any brand that they love or that has really treated them above and beyond. So we can't go ask them to then do that for our customers until we show them what that looks like, and more importantly, get them to feel what it feels like. Then we can say, that feeling you're feeling right now where you're really happy and proud and you just sat up straighter in your seat and you put a smile on your face, that's exactly the reaction we're trying to get from our customers. When you make that connection and you invest in your employees, they can have a better shot at creating a good experience for your customers.
I can't argue with that for sure, Dan, as we are basically we've just we have like 9 months since we've launched our solution to track NPS by employee, and we've got a great response from our customers, the omnichannel retailers, which are tracking the NPS by employee, and that could see also the feedback by who do they have in front of their customers. And I think not only the NPS but the actual words, because also with the latest thing which we are doing, which is to leverage the natural language processing, for companies that have thousands of responses and they can't process them like this, you can't look for patterns manually. It's a very tedious work. So for those companies, also amazing to see the recurring themes by the store or by location or by employee. If you have enough data to crunch, that's also an amazing thing to do. What's your stance, by the way, into leveraging NLP AI into crunching the data, and the feedback from customers?
Yeah, first of all, I'll just say I will make a bet that if you connect the NPS by employee to employee satisfaction, you're going to see a direct connection, right? Your employees that love working for you are going to end up having better NPS scores with the customers, almost guaranteed, right? Yeah. And that's kind of what I was saying before.
They paid forward.
Yeah, exactly. So I am all for AI, machine learning, natural language processing. It's here to stay. It's not, there's no sense in trying to push against it. But I do think that it has to be used in the right ways. I believe that we are still a very long way off from consumers not wanting to talk to humans.
Yeah.
When they have a problem, right? And so, and look, I say that, and today's consumer, especially younger consumers, very much want to self-serve. So there's a difference, right? I want to self-serve, so please let me at least have a pretty good chance of going to your website or your mobile app and getting the answer to my question. But if I have to call you, I want to speak to a human, right? And what happened, if we go back to early days, say, of chatbots, we all know the IVR on the phone, which is that press one if you'd like this, press two if you'd like that. You know,
Yeah.
I do this in audiences sometimes when I do big speeches. You know, raise your hand if you really like going through the IVR, right? Nobody does. But then when we started with chatbots, we basically just created digital IVRs. The chatbots spit out, well, what would you like to do? You can do this, this, or this. Oh, my choice is not on there. What do I do now? Well, sorry, I can only do this, this, and this. Right. And the only difference is you can't press 0 to get to the operator. And so my belief is that AI and machine learning, for what you're talking about, crunching data, oh my gosh, it's a game changer. Because, you know, just as another example, at McDonald's got, when I was there, which was now a number of years ago, McDonald's was getting 1 million social media mentions every day. You think I could track all of that? I mean, it was impossible. You can't track 1 million mentions. And so this is the beauty of what you know, all this technology can do. What we have to be careful with is not to try to immediately think, oh, I can use this to fire my entire customer service team and we'll just have the customers talk to the computer. That's a terrible idea, as some of the early chatbot adopters learned, right? Because they tried to do that. They tried to just say, well, we'll just let the chatbot solve it. Well, guess what? The chatbot can solve some problems, but it can't solve all problems. I think where the balance is going to end up is that we're going to use AI and machine learning for what you said, which is data crunching. We're also going to use it to help agents be better agents. So if you imagine a customer service agent, and I always just imagine it sitting next to this giant computer, right? I kind of think of, you know what IBM Watson is? It was like one of the very first superpowered computers that went on Jeopardy and it beat all the humans, right? And so I imagine this customer service agent sitting next to Watson. And that gives the agent a lot of confidence because after all, you're sitting next to a computer that knows the answer to every question ever asked. Okay, great. Now I feel pretty confident about my job. At least I know I'm going to be able to answer the question, whatever it is. And I don't have to have 3 screens in front of me and Post-it notes and scripts that I have to copy and paste and all of this stuff that we make agents do, or that they do because, you know, they find these hacks. Instead, now all the agent has to do is be human, which is the thing the computer can't do. It's the thing that we humans are the best at, is being human. And so now the agent's job becomes talking with the customer, empathizing with the customer, assisting them, but not having to know the answer to all the problems because we got the computer right next to us that can do that. And so I think down the road, we're going to start to see far more empowered agents because they've got all the tool, actually the tool sitting next to them that gives them all of that confidence so that it isn't, I mean, we've all been on calls where, you know, we ask a question and then we hear clack, 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 as they're typing, you know, and it's like, come on, just give me the answer already. That all goes away because the computer knows the answer and it spits it right out. And now this agent can just be a better human.
Yeah. Dan, I have a question which is regarding the proactivity. So how can you turn this type of feedback into real-time response? Do you think it's crucial, it's mandatory? Because I'm coming from the back in the days where, I don't know, JFK, Nielsen, whatever, they were doing this type of NPS studies every 3 months, every 6 months. And when I was looking through this feedback, I was, oh my God, who's this customer? I want to call this guy.
But it was 3 months ago,
I want to say
right?
I'm sorry. And I couldn't do anything, you know. It's always very, very, it has this huge delay. And I'm a strong advocate of doing this type of real-time responses. What's your take on that?
Yeah, 100%. And the more real time you can be, the better, because, you know, when somebody has an issue, when something breaks in your customer experience, that moment is a moment of truth, because what happens next is going to determine whether that customer stays with you or leaves. And if they have a good service experience, they're actually more likely to stay. And I have a theory about this. It's because insurance is a perfect example of this, is that really what we want as consumers is we want the companies that we pay money to have our backs. We want them to be there for us when we
Yeah.
need them. And insurance is
Yes.
the perfect example, right? You pay, and then when you have a claim, that's the moment of truth. Is the insurance company going to be there when I need them? But this is true in other businesses as well. And when we saw this in COVID, right, we saw which companies were there for us when it felt like the world was coming to an end, and which companies were completely lost and really had no idea. And that's
Yeah.
why we saw so much brand shifting during and after COVID, is that people, as customers, had this realization of, oh, this company doesn't know what it's doing, or this company's not there for me when I really need them. I'm out of here. I'm going somewhere else. And so that real-time feedback is really critical. And you can do this on the phone, certainly, by one of the things I always recommend is that you have a group, preferably of executives, but really any level, that routinely listen to calls in a group. And so you listen to calls, and then you comment on two things. You comment on the agent's performance, and you also comment on, why did this person call us in the first place? Because remember, they only called because something went wrong. And so if we can answer that question, we can go fix the underlying problem and prevent other people from calling. And that becomes this sort of virtuous circle that you can continue doing, where you're continuing to improve the things that are causing people to call, right? And now you're fixing up a lot of the pain points that you put in front of customers. You can also do this even easier in a digital landscape. There are services out there that allow you to put a little widget on every page of your website so that customers can proactively just click a little icon and leave feedback. Well, make sure that somebody's reading that feedback and doing something with that feedback. And especially if you've got, some AI to help you with that, you can have the AI sound the alarm saying, look, 100 people today just left feedback on this page. Something's wrong with it. Something's broken. Let's go fix it. And let's go fix it now. Not in 100 days when 100 times 100, 10,000 more people will have complained. Let's fix it right now. And so I definitely agree with you that the faster we can do things and the more real time we can make it, the better it's going to be for everybody.
So Dan, I have let's say a question which is mostly related to what's the future. How do you foresee the future? I mean, let's get the time machine, like it was that movie Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
So let's pretend it's 2030 and we are looking back and we are saying to our older selves, you know what, this happened. So what happened? How do you see customer experience going further? How do you see customer journeys happening? How do you see companies interacting with their customers?
Well, first of all, if you want to feel old, in Back to the Future, they went forward to 2015. And that
Correct.
sure felt like a long time back then. But anyway, I think we've touched a little bit on it. I do think that companies are going to continue to learn how to use AI the right way, and that includes generative AI and things like ChatGPT that have become so popular. We're going to learn how to use it the right way in service of the customer. I think we're going to see way more empowered agents, and my hope is that the way that companies can save money with customer service is not to replace customer service agents with computers, but it is to remove enough pain points and improve the experience well enough that we don't need as much customer service. I mean, if you could tell an airline today, hey, what if we went from 1 million calls a day to 500,000 calls a day? Do you know how much money that would save them? And the answer is make a better experience. Make it so that people don't have to call you. The airline that I use every day, or not every day, but I do travel a lot for speeches. But the airline that I use, there's something in their system where if you do something with a ticket, I think it's if you use a travel credit to book a ticket, then all of a sudden you cannot modify that trip online. You have to call. Now, there's no reason for that other than old technology. It's stupid. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense to the customer. But because I travel a lot and I'm switching tickets all the time, I'm often using travel credits. And so it's midnight and I need to change a flight. And now it pops up and says, sorry, you can't change this one online. You have to call us. That is a devastating experience, right? That is so
Yeah.
frustrating. And then it happens over and over and over again. We've got to get better at stuff like that. And I think that what we're definitely seeing as a trend, and this is only going to continue, is that customers are moving towards the companies that treat them the best. They're even willing to pay more for a better experience. So if you are a company that is not focused on customer experience, you are going to lose business to companies that are focused on it.
Yeah. Then I've been for years hypnotized about the subject of customer lifetime value, of improving it. I have this let's say maturity metrics, like you have from crawl to fly, crawl, walk, run, fly. And in my vision, the most customer centric companies are not focusing on let's say revenue or lag indicators, but are looking at predictive measures like lifetime value, like the trend of the customer satisfaction or NPS, and so on. What it's also in according to my vision, what it's also important is how many initiatives you as a company are running, or experiments are you running every quarter or every year to improve customer lifetime value. So we are hearing a lot about the fact that, hey, you need lifetime value, you need to justify the customer acquisition cost is going up, you need the customer acquisition cost, payback time, and so on. So we are hearing that. But there are few actual optimization ideas or tactics or initiatives. Anyways, I'm gonna steal the one with the forcing the leadership team. I'm doing like a like a long list of ideas to improve lifetime value, but I'm gonna steal this from you to force the leadership team every month to listen for, I don't know, together to do like a group listening session, and to hear what their customers had to say, or which are the most burning issues. But tell me if you can come up with other ideas, not to only, let's say, monitor lifetime value and affect it, let's say, from a general perspective, but actual initiatives or experiments that retailers or any other type of companies could test out.
Sure, I'll give you two. The first is, I'm a huge believer that every employee is in the customer experience business, no matter what their title and what their job description is. And if you've probably heard of Kaizen, the Japanese methodology
Yeah.
for continuous improvement, that's an operations theory, and so it's often thought of as just being in production lines or in call centers, in more operational areas. But that can be applied everywhere, and it can be applied to continuously improve the experience. It's not necessarily just about continuously improving the production or the call time, handle time, or whatever, but it can actually also be used to improve the experience. In order to do that, we have to empower every employee to honestly believe that customer experience is their job.
Yeah.
And so even if you're a person in finance who doesn't talk to customers ever, you're making decisions every day that affect customers. So if you're not making those decisions through the lens of the customer and understanding the customer impact, you're going to make bad decisions. And my belief is we can always make decisions that are both good for the company and for the customer. Those are not separate from each other. They actually work really well together. When you make good decisions for the customer, it generally ends up a good decision for the company. A little bit more tactically, the other thing that I always suggest is, no matter what level you are in the company, become a customer of your own company. Now, what does that mean? If you work for a credit card company, it means apply for the credit card and go through that whole process and see how long it takes until you get the card in your hand, and then go bring it to the store and buy something and use the card, and then go log on to the website and look at your transactions, and then pay your bill and go through every single step and see where you get irritated. Because if you're irritated, your customers are irritated. Now, you might not have something as clear cut as a credit card business, but you still can become a customer of certain parts of your business. You can log into your own website and forget your password and go through that process, because no company yet has fixed the forgotten password process and made that any good. But you can do some of the things that you ask your customers to do and see how you feel as a consumer. The beauty of customer experience is that it doesn't require an advanced degree. We are all consumers in our real lives. And so we know what we like and we know what we don't like. I remember this example at one company that I worked for where I was in charge of the website. And and I already told you that we wanted people to be able to log in and log off quickly. Well, when you logged in, a certain percentage of people got a pop-up ad. And I wanted to get rid of the pop-up ad. But the marketing department said, "Oh, no, you can't do that." I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because it is our best performing ad." I said, "Wow, how well is it performing?" They said, "We get a 6% conversion rate on that ad, and our average is 2%. I said, "Okay, that's great. Congratulations. 6% sounds good. Have you thought about the fact that you are irritating 94% of people by putting this ad up in front of them? Because, yeah, 6% click through, but 94% don't, and they roll their eyes at you." And so this is what I mean when everybody in the company has to think like a customer. And then if you're a customer and you log onto a website and you get a pop-up ad, how do you feel? Generally, you don't love it. I've never met anybody that says, "Yes, I love pop-up ads." So when we become a customer of our own company, we start to see things exactly as customers see them, and it will give you tons of ideas of ways that you can improve.
Excellent. I love your take, and yes, it's always the mirror has two faces, right? Talking about old movies with Barbara Streisand.
Yes,
Yeah. So
exactly. No, you're
yeah,
totally right. We in our businesses, in our offices, we're looking out towards the customer, but the customer's looking in towards us. It's a different viewpoint, right? It might be similar. When we look in the mirror, it does look like us, right? But then you start to realize, like, wait a second, I'm moving this hand and it looks like I'm moving the other hand, right? It's a slightly different perspective. And if we never turn ourselves around and see that perspective of the customer, we never fully get it.
yeah. So Dan, we've been focusing on a lot of aspects. What I wanna touch, because we are towards the end of our episode today. What do you suggest are the first things? So let's say we've just been watched by the CEO of Ryanair, the worst, one of the worst European companies and not customer centric companies. What do you suggest for companies which are willing to become customer centric, which are willing to improve customer experience in order to improve lifetime value and get more profitable and a more sustainable business? Where should they start from?
Well, I think they definitely should start by buying both of our books. That'd be a great place to start.
That's for sure.
Maybe bring me in to do a keynote presentation. I think that's a good place to start. No, but really, I think that honestly, becoming a customer of your own company is a great place to start. That is a really good place because it just completely changes your perspective of your business. And it is so hard for us to get out from, the back of our to get out of our chair from the back of our desk, right? And look at it from the opposite perspective. Let me give you one more example on that. And I think it goes to show really how easy it is to start to figure this stuff out. So I don't know if this happens globally, but in the United States, if you go to a dentist office, the dentist almost always has their private office in the back of the building. And the reason for that is that when they come in the morning, maybe the first appointment is 8 a.m. Maybe they're sauntering in at 7:59. They haven't gotten their coat off yet. They don't want to walk through the lobby and have all the patients see them walking in at the last minute. So they walk in the back door into their office. Okay, I understand why you do that. But if you never walk in the front door, then you miss the fact that there's fingerprints on the glass. And you miss the fact that the magazine rack hasn't been updated since before COVID. And you miss the fact that you're out of coffee and that you're out of pens at the front desk,
Yeah.
and that nobody's wiped any dust off of the front desk in a long time. You never see that if you're always walking in the back door. And so, but yet that's what your patients see every day when they walk in. And so it's really about, my mother has this wonderful phrase when I travel, because she's a mom. She says, always be aware of your surroundings. Pay attention, look around you to make sure that you're safe. And I think that's actually really good advice for customer experience. Just pay more attention. Just look more broadly at your business. Follow the steps of your customers. See what they see, and you're going to observe. And then it becomes about, okay, I have this massive list of things. I got to start working on them. And, I am a believer that customer experience doesn't have to be a multi-year, multi-million-dollar transformational project. Customer experience is just a series of little things. It's an endless series because you're always going to find more improvements. But just get started. Start fixing things. Start finding opportunities to either eliminate pain points or make something better for a customer. Take it from ordinary to extraordinary. And you're going to have to enjoy this journey because the journey's never over. But it is, if you look at it as a series of little things, it becomes so much more approachable. Anybody can do it. You don't have to be the CEO to lead the project or the CTO. You can delegate it to almost anybody in the company. You can empower everyone in the company to look for little ways to eliminate pain points or to improve the experience. And then it becomes something that we can all gather around that actually becomes part of our culture. We have a culture of customer centricity. Every decision we make through the lens of the customer. And that's when this thing really starts to take off.
Love it. And I want to touch on the last subject. Basically, I have this framework about CVO. I don't know if you can see it. So mainly, I will try to do it. I don't know if it's going to focus. No, but basically, what is written here at page 158 is that there are 3 pillars of customer value optimization: what you say, what you do, what you sell. So if what you sell is crap, it's clear that customers will never come back. If what you say is not relevant, customers will not come back. And of course, if what you do is not over-delivering, the customers will never come back. Today, we've been happy, and I'm personally grateful for having you in the show, Dan, to address the second pillar of customer value optimization, which is customer experience. Thanks a lot for being a part of the CVO Live. If they want to get a hold of you, if the companies which are not yet customer centric will want to have you doing a keynote at their offices, where they can find you?
Sure. Well, best place to find me is on my website, which is danginges.com. My email is pretty easy to remember. If you can remember the website, it's dan@danginges.com, and that goes right to me. If there's no assistant, it will go to my inbox. Or I'm very active on LinkedIn. That's a great place to connect as well if you prefer the social area. And I'd love to hear from you. But thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a really interesting discussion, and I'm looking forward to you selling tens of thousands of copies of your book.
Well, if you help me after the show, yes, we'll do. Basically, I wanna pick your brain on that. But thanks everyone for watching. From the next week onwards, we are going to do small shows of only 30 minutes in order to have experts and influencers helping me out to push this book. And we are going to talk with 15 experts about the 15 chapters of my book. So stick around and we'll see each other next week. Dan, again, it's been a pleasure, man. All the best from Bucharest, and goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.